Welcome to the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach, along with Keeneland's director of simulcasting, Jim Goodman. And we've got stakes races to talk about from four tracks, two stakes at Saratoga. We will start there. The ninth race on their card is the De La Rose Stakes for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, going a mile on the turf. And I thought this was a little tough one to make a call on. Where did you land?
Yeah, it's a nice little race, and if you look at the conditions of the race, it's a inner turf for fillies and mares 3 and up, which have not won a grade sweepstakes on the turf in 2013. And so I took a look at the conditions, and I think Ruthenia fits the conditions very well. She's the only one who's won a graded stakes on the turf, but she did it in 2012. She also ran just behind Laughing on June 29th at Monmouth, who came back and won the Grade 1 Diana at Saratoga last weekend. So I think Ruthenia, to me, is a good choice in here. Open water, won a graded stakes on synthetic in 2013, but no turf. So I think open water is the other contender in here. But I'm going to take Ruthenia on top with open water and maybe laugh out loud to get the trifecta.
I'm going to take a little bit of a price play here in the 4 Assateague. Ran well in her last start, is improving, and this is a class step up, and she hadn't been able to make it before, but she did win here very impressively and breaking her maiden last summer. Actually was there and saw the race, and she just took it from the start and never looked back. And looking at this race, I could see where she might be able to do that again here. So I'm going to take a shot with Assateague, and then I would use her with Ruthenia, Laugh Out Loud, and also Sweet Little Lion, who won her last despite a horrible post and now switches to Bill Mott, picks up Rosario. And with all that going on, I almost went to Sweet Little Lion. But and then I would take then look at these horses and take all these horses I mentioned and play them to the horse I like in the Whitney, which is going to be Successful Dan for a daily double I was talking about. I'm going to go for Successful Dan for the upset. 3-year-olds and up going a mile and an eighth in the Grade 1 Whitney, the 10th race. Fort Larned is going to be the favorite to me, strictly the one to beat. I'm going to try to keep Cross Traffic out of the top 2. He's never been beyond a mile, but man, I don't think there's been any horse that's been more impressive in defeat twice than this horse. So it's a tough race. But because of Cross Traffic and Fort Larned, I thought Successful Dan would be a nice price. He has just been burning up the track in workouts, and on his best day, he's good enough to compete with the top ones in here. So I'm going to take a shot that Charlie LaPresti has him ready on his best day again and take an upset with Successful Dan. What about you?
Yeah, on his best day, he won the Clark Handicap in Grade 1 in Churchill and got disqualified, but then came back and ran just as well in the Ali Sheba last year. I agree that he's got a shot. I also agree Fort Larned is going to be the favorite and probably not a good bet at 7-5 or 8-5. And there were a couple of horses in here that intrigued me, and one of them you mentioned. Cross Traffic has only raced 4 times, and he's 2 noses away from being undefeated with a 116 buyer in the Westchester at Belmont in April. And I think it's a stretch for him to get a mile and an eighth, but he's got such natural speed that I think he's going to be tough to beat. And I think Cross Traffic intrigues me. The other horse that hasn't run at all in the last 3 times, they took him to Dubai, and that was probably a mistake. But if you look at Alpha, he is 3 for 3 at Saratoga, including a dead heat in last year's Travers.
That's a good point.
So I always look at horses that have run well at Saratoga because it seems to be the kind of track somewhat like Churchill that you either like it or you don't like it. And I got to put Alpha in there simply because he's 3 for 3 at Saratoga. So Successful Dan's got a shot. I think the horses that don't have a shot are Mucho Macho Man, Ron the Greek. Fast Falcon is probably in over his head. Ron the Greek is past his prime, I think. But I would give a Successful Dan a shot. But I'm going to take a shot with Cross Traffic to beat Alpha and Fort Larned with the rest of them in the trifecta.
To Mountaineer, their big day is headlined by the Grade 2 West Virginia Derby. It's the 8th race on their card for 3-year-olds at a mile and an eighth. And you've got horse that ran in the Preakness, Departing, that's going postward here. Who'd you like?
Well, this is not a great race. It's for a $750,000 Grade 2. I think they may be a little bit disappointed in the quality of the field because there are some absolute throwouts here. Departing is obviously not one of them. He's been off since the Preakness. He's probably going to be the favorite. But I went to a horse between here and cool, coming off a narrow loss at the Iowa Derby to looking cool. The horse is getting better at the right time with a 76, 83, 89, 94 buyer progression. I think he could be a decent price as we used to just bring this horse around at the right time. And I'm going to take him on top, overanalyzing departing of the class of the field. But overanalyze seems to have reached his peak, and he may be good enough to beat these, but I'm going to try to beat him, and I'm going to try to beat departing as well with between here and cool. Asmussen
does a nice job of picking these kinds of spots for his horses. Almost went with that horse too. I ended up going with departing for the win. Thought Alstall's very good off the layoff, and this horse is working really well. They took their shot at the Preakness. Thought he got a bad ride. Brian Hernandez took him inside when he turned for home, which was absolutely not where you wanted to be. So he might have been he wasn't going to hit the board, but he might have made a contention for maybe fourth. I don't know. But I'm just going to completely toss overanalyze, and the way I wrote it up on the Weekend Warrior blog was just a exacta box of between here and cool and departing. And I'm picking departing, but it's just a exacta box, whatever increment you want to use, $2 box, $5 box, just the same both ways for me on those two. I like both of them. Woodbine, their 8th race is the Grade 3 Seagram Cup for 3-year-olds and up at 1 mile and a 16th. I ended up going with a horse that won real impressively in the spring at Keeneland, Patriotic and Proud for Mark Casse. Hadn't done anything since then, but I think he's back on his best surface and at his best distance, and you get some value, and the value in particular is kind of why I'm taking a shot with Patriotic and Proud. Well drawn down on the inside, and I'm going to use him in exactas with a couple of the horses that are likely to take most of the money. Alpha Better, the 3, and James Street, the 8. Your pick?
Yeah, when you look at this race, these horses have beaten up each other. I think they've raced against each other like 7 or 8 times, and it's hard to separate those two. The last 6 times, each has won twice, and they both finished well the other time. So I'm going to try to beat them, but I'm going to try to beat them with the horse named Ultimate Destiny. The horse is moving up in class, but has run well on a 3-race win streak. Switches jocks. Don't know that Cabell is a move up, but I think that horse, Awesome Overture, have some upside, and I think Alpha Better and James Street are probably as good as they're going to get, and you're not going to get a very good price on them. So I think they're probably James Street is the most likely winner, but I'm going to try to beat him with Ultimate Destiny.
Wonder if that's a Texas football fan that owns that horse, because that's the name of the quarterback that beat Arkansas in the famous football game in 1969. James Street.
Man, you got a good memory. Comes to football anyway, right?
That's right. Let's go to Del Mar, and the final race we'll look at is the Grade 1 Clement Hirsch at the 8th race on their card, 3-year-olds and up, mile and a 16th. And pretty good bunch here, including a horse that's done well for you, Bayrama. You going back to her?
Well, I was reading in the racing forum that they put her back to 7 furlongs, and now they're going to go ahead and route with her the rest of the year. So I do like her. She didn't run that great last time out. Maybe 7 furlongs is a little bit too short for her. So they're looking at stretching her out. This is a good spot for her. But I think Include Me Out is going to be awfully tough to handle here. She's the defending champ. She finished a little less than 3 lengths behind Royal Delta last year. She's only had 1 race this year. It was a lower level stakes race at Hollywood Park, and she won as a good prep for this race. And I'm going to take Include Me Out on top with Bayrama and a cold exacta. The other horse that I thought that had a chance here at a price is Quiet Oasis. Didn't run very well in Jimmy Wiley. Center Court and Daisy Divine were the class of that race. Had a rough trip and wound up getting placed 7th through disqualification. But prior to that, had 5 really good races in a row, and I think this might be a good spot for her to rebound at a price with Gutierrez up. So Quiet Oasis is my long shot here.
I started to take Include Me Out because of the 2 for 3 at Del Mar, but what I didn't like was the number 9 post, and there a lot of the days it's speed and on the inside has just been golden. And Richard's Kid last weekend was able to come from off of it and off the rail and win. So I think you want to pay attention to how the track's playing on Saturday. But I ended up picking here in advance Lady 50 for Jerry Hollendorfer. He's very good off the layoff. She's working well. She's got 4 wins on synthetic, and she's got some speed, and that could serve her very well breaking from the 1 hole. So I ended up taking Lady of 50 because of the post position differential. Include Me Out if you're using horizontals. I would definitely use both of those. But I'm going to play Lady of 50 to win and key her with Include Me Out, by Rama, and one of Sadler's More Chocolate. But Lady of 50 is the pick for me in the Grade 1 Clement L. Hirsch. By the way, we should note that last week, Keeneland sales grads picked up a number of outstanding performances. Group 1 winner Elusive Kate over the Seas was a winner. Title contender, Joyful Victory, both graded stakes winners out of the Keeneland sales, and so were Palace, Malice, and Verrazano in the Grade 2 Jim Dandy and the Grade 1 Haskell, respectively. And I thought both were very impressive, and if they show up against each other in the Travers, that could be a well of a race.
Oh, it's going to be a great race, and it may be better than the Triple Crown races because these horses are still fighting for 3-year-old supremacy. There's nobody really on top. You can make a case for both Verrazano and Palace Malice, but
and Orb will be there in the Travers.
Still in there, yeah. You kind of forget about him. He's going to train up in the Travers, but it's going to be a great race, and I'm looking forward to August the 24th.
Yeah, you and me both. And we'll be back next week to look at some more stakes races around the country. Before we adjourn, anything going on with for the Keeneland Simulcast patrons?
We are open all weekend, obviously. One thing I want to remind people of is it seems like people forget we're open on Monday, and Saratoga has some nice cards on Monday.
Often a stake.
They're going to 10 races on Monday, and it's pretty much like going to the races at Keeneland with no other simulcasting going on. There's a couple of minor tracks that are running, but you really can focus on Saratoga on Mondays. And I noticed the crowd wasn't that great this past week, and we're going to try to do a little more advertising. But Monday's a good day to come to Keeneland for simulcasting. If you can sneak out early in the afternoon off your job, and Saratoga is just a wonderful place to sit there and try to watch the races and soak it in and make a little money. And they've got really good racing this year, obviously.
Absolutely right. Jim, best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, too, Tom.
That is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.